Velocicoaster, Rip Ride Rocket, Hulk, Hagrid's, a lot of thrill rides at Universal and Islands of Adventure. But what to do if you're a scaredy-cat? I've got 6 recommendations for you.
Rix, top 6, party time, excellent.
Now, in addition to the top 6 rides that are must-dos if you're scaredy-cats, I'm going to talk about some rides that maybe if you have a bad bag or if you're pregnant, some of the less thrilling rides you may want to consider when you're visiting Universal Orlando. Let's get to it. Just a reminder, these are all my opinions. This is not based on anything that Universal has put out there. I'm just going by my own experience on these attractions, letting you know which ones I think are the best for the scaredy-cats and for those who maybe just can't handle the big thrill rides for one reason or another. And by the way, my 6 must-dos, my 6 recommendations, no particular order. We're just gonna walk around the park and discover them. The first attraction on our list, if you're a fraidy-cat, or like I said, maybe you just can't handle the thrill rides, the Bourne Stunttacular. This is one of Universal's newest attractions, located near the front of the park on Hollywood Boulevard. It is based on the movie franchise, The Bourne Identity, and it features some of the latest, greatest technology used in stage shows. This attraction is good for you non-thrill types because you're basically just sitting in a theater watching a show in front of you. Now, the technology used in the show is amazing, but still, you're basically just sitting down. And also, if you would like to learn more about this particular attraction, I did a Wikipedia where I tell you everything you need to know about the Bourne Stunttacular. Check the description box for a link to that, or click this info card right up here. Universal does have a few warnings with this attraction. Even though I say it's for you non-thrill types, it says due to the intense nature of this attraction, parental discretion is advised. Also, it warns of motion sickness or dizziness and like medical sensitivity to strobe effects. I mainly think Universal has its warnings on this because of the gunfights and like the explosions that occurred during the stunt show, but I really think you fraidy-cats can handle this one. Next on the list, if you're afraid of those big fast roller coasters, we have Despicable Me. This is a very popular 2D screen attraction. It used to be 3D, however. Now, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion is this attraction was a much better attraction when they had it being a 3D attraction. Even though I'm saying this is a good attraction for you non-thrill types, Universal does have some warnings regarding it. It has warnings regarding heart conditions and blood pressure, back, neck, or physical conditions, expectant mothers, motion sickness, and dizziness. And then again, the fog and the strobe light effects. Now, to mitigate those warnings, there are some modified seats in this attraction, stationary seats. So if you have that bad bag, or if you're pregnant, you might want to request those modified seats that are stationary. Because while this is kind of a theater type attraction, the seats in the theater does move. But again, Despicable Me, Minion, Mayhem does make my list of rides you can handle if you can't handle the big roller coasters. Right next to Despicable Me, Minion, Mayhem, just across the street, we have Shrek 4D, a long time attraction here that a lot of first timers really enjoy this attraction. Once again, this is a theater type screen ride, but there is some jostling and movements in your theater seats. Again, Universal does have some warnings for heart conditions, blood pressure, back, neck, physical conditions, expectant mothers, motion sickness and dizziness, and that strobe effect warning again. However, this is another attraction that has the modified seating. The stationary seating is available upon request. You know, I will say this attraction is pretty tame. There is one section though that the theater seats really bounce up and down, that if you have a bad back, that might bother you. So consider those stationary seats if you have that bad back. But in general, I would say either Shrek 4D or Despicable Me, Minion, Mayhem, good attractions for you non-roller coaster types. And both those attractions are pretty much the first 2 attractions you're going to run into when you get inside of Universal Studios. But now that we've talked about a couple of screen rides, let's move on down the road to an attraction that is not a screen ride. I have a classic ride based on a classic movie for you non-thrill types. ETs Adventure, which by the way is the last original opening day attraction to remain here at Universal Studios. And it seems like almost every ride at Universal has this warning of heart conditions and blood pressure, back, neck, physical conditions, expectant mothers, motion sickness or dizziness, strobe and fog effects. But in reality, this ride, very tame, very non-thrill. It's akin, if you want to equate it to like a Disney attraction, I would say Peter Pan's Flight, or Flight of Peter Pan. Very similar. In fact, I did a versus video where I had ET versus Peter Pan's Flight. I'll leave a link to that video in this info card and in the description. Check that out. But as far as you non-thrill types, a must-do here at Universal Studios Orlando is ET's Adventure as far as my channel is concerned. I guess I should warn you, you will be taking flight on a bicycle in this attraction, just like in the movies, so it is a little more thrilling than sitting in a chair or standing on the ground, okay? Let's just put that out there. But I mean, it's not like you're going on the Velocicoaster when you're going on ET's Adventure. And when you're done with the ride, head into ET's Toy Closet, get yourself some Reese's Pieces and a great spot for some photo opportunities in there with ET himself. Check that out after the ride. Into Springfield for item number 5 on today's Rix Top 6. Rides for Scaredy-Cats. Inside of the Krusty Land section of Springfield, we have the Simpsons ride. This is the one I struggled with the most. Should I include this on the list or not? Obviously I did. It made the official cut. But this is one ride that I get very nauseous on sometimes. Obviously this ride is not as intense as a roller coaster like Rip Ride Rocket or The Mummy, and I don't think this ride is too herky-jerky, at least in my opinion. But it does have the usual warnings that Universal gives you. This is one of the rides I would take that motion sickness warning very seriously. But if you can't handle a roller coaster like say Gringotts, you should consider this ride. I do love the MIB attraction, but it did not make the list of must-dos for the Scaredy-Cats or the non-thrill types, because while most of the ride is pretty tame, there's 2 sections in here that will spin the heck out of you. About midway through the ride, there's a section that spins you pretty good, and then the very end of the ride, after you try to push that red button, man, it spins the heck out of you. So for that reason, I thought I should leave it off of this list for the non-thrill type riders. But it is one of my favorite rides, and if you think you can handle the spinning, definitely do it. What to do about Diagon Alley? The one ride in here is part roller coaster, so I cannot include that. But there are a few shows you can watch in here. You can see Ollivander's wand show, and then you can also see a couple stage shows, Celestina Warbeck and the Banshees, a musical show, and then Beetle the Bard, Tale of the Three Brothers. They put on a show here as well, so a few non-thrill things you can do. But the one ride, Escape from Gringotts, pretty thrilling. Or you can just hang out, do some shopping, and enjoy some butterbeer while you're here. Fast and Furious Supercharged. I don't even know what to say about this. Obviously, it's not a thrill ride like a roller coaster, but it did not make my list of must-dos for the Scaredy-Cats or the non-thrill types. And I should warn you though, there's a couple spots on this attraction you will get jostled around a bit, so I warn you about that. But as far as making the list as a top 6 must-do for non-thrill people, didn't quite make the cut. Now back to the official countdown. Item number 6 on today's list, a rides for Scaredy-Cats or the non-thrill types in general, Race Through New York, starring Jimmy Fallon. Race Through New York has the usual warnings that I've been showing you. However, it does not have the modified seating, the stationary seating, not at all on this ride. But this ride, it's like in a theater, there's some motion, but it's more like a floating movement for Race Through New York. Also for you non-thrill types, I should mention some shows. They've got a few good street shows here at Universal Studios, Maryland and the Diamond Bellas on Hollywood Boulevard. And then in New York, you have the Blues Brothers and the Beat Builders. So if you don't want to go on those roller coasters, those thrilling rides, check out some of the street shows here. Into Islands of Adventure real quick. Even though nothing made the official top 6 must-dos for non-thrill riders, a couple things I do want to cover in here. Between the 2 parks, Studios and Islands of Adventure, it's Islands of Adventure that has more thrill rides. And as a result, fewer opportunities for those non-thrill ride seekers. Interested in those easy to do rides? You're gonna wanna hit up Seuss Landing. In here, I'm going to recommend the One Fish, Two Fish ride, the Carousel, and the High in the Sky trolley. While Cat in the Hat does seem like a kid ride, there is some bouncing and spinning on this ride, so I just want to warn you about that. Here's a little tip for you. Maybe you're not a roller coaster or a thrill person right now, but you want to be. Maybe your first roller coaster should be Flight of the Hippogriff. This one, it basically just goes in circles and it's less than a minute long. Also in the Wizarding World, there's a few shows. Again, you have Ollivander's Wand Show, and then you have the Tri-Wizard Pep Rally, and also the Frog Choir. Skull Island, Reign of Kong, I will include this as an honorable mention. It's mainly a screen ride. There's a couple spots where you kind of get jostled around a bit. Other than that, I think this should be included as an honorable mention. Obviously, it's not like a roller coaster or anything like that, but if it got a bad back, that jostling around, it could bother it. Can I interest any of you Scaredy-Cats in the Hulk? I kid. I don't think any of you watching this video would be interested in the Hulk coaster. Alright, I think that's going to do it for today's video. I gave you my top 6 recommendations if you're a scaredy cat. If you don't like thrill rides, I gave you 6 and an honorable mention. And plus, I talked about a few of the other rides you may want to consider. And with all that being said, don't miss the magic, don't miss the fun. Thanks for watching Rix Flix, and now it's time to relax.